What would you do if a complete stranger looked into your eyes and predicted your loss before it even happened? Elena Cross never liked silence, not because it was uncomfortable, but because it was unfamiliar. As the CEO of a billion-dollar company, her world was built on noise, constant, overwhelming, relentless noise. Phones ringing without pause, board members arguing over millions like it meant nothing, assistants rushing behind her, decisions stacking one after another, each heavier than the last. Silence didn't exist in her life, and if it ever did, it usually meant something was wrong. That evening, however, something was wrong, and for the first time in years, Elena didn't try to fix it. She walked into a small coffee shop tucked between two quiet streets far from the glass towers and flashing screens of her corporate world. The bell above the door rang softly as she stepped in. Warm light filled the space, the soft hum of distant conversations, the quiet clink of cups. Slow dot, too slow dot. Elena exhaled, adjusting her coat slightly as she approached the counter. "Black coffee," she said, her voice calm but tired. "No sugar, no cream." Just like always. She turned around, waiting. That's when she noticed him. At first, it was nothing special, just a man sitting by the window, but something about him didn't fit. While everyone else in the cafe moved, talked, checked their phones, he didn't. He sat still, calm, grounded, like the world around him had no effect on him at all. Beside him sat a young girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, quietly coloring in a notebook. She smiled to herself, completely at peace, and in front of the man, tarot cards, spread neatly across the table. Elena frowned slightly. Tarot, in a place like this, it didn't match the setting, it didn't match the energy, it didn't make sense. Her eyes lingered, for just a moment longer than necessary. Something about the scene pulled her in, not curiosity, something deeper, something she couldn't explain. "Order for Elena." She snapped out of it, grabbing her coffee. But as she turned, she found herself walking past his table. And that's when it happened. "You're carrying too much." The voice was calm, steady, but it stopped her instantly. Elena turned slowly, her expression shifting into mild irritation. "Excuse me," she said. The man looked up at her. No hesitation, no awkwardness, just quiet confidence. "Do I know you?" she asked sharply. He shook his head. "No," he said gently, "but your energy says enough." Elena let out a small breath, almost a scoff. "Right," she muttered. "One of those." She had seen people like this before, people who believed they could read others, predict emotions, sell illusions. She didn't have time for that. But before she could walk away, he picked up one of the tarot cards, flipped it over, and studied it for a moment. There was no dramatic pause, no performance, just silence. Then he looked back at her, straight into her eyes, and said something that made her chest tighten. "You're about to lose something." Elena crossed her arms instantly. "I don't believe in this nonsense." Her voice was firm, controlled, but something inside her had shifted. He didn't argue, didn't try to convince her. Instead, he simply added, "Or someone important." And just like that, the world around her went quiet. Not physically, but mentally. For a brief second, she couldn't think. Her breath caught just slightly, barely noticeable, but real, before she could respond. A small voice broke the tension. "My dad is always right." Elena looked down. The little girl smiled up at her, innocent, warm, completely sure of what she had just said. Elena blinked, then straightened her posture. "I'm sure he thinks so," she replied coolly. She turned and walked away. This time, she didn't stop, didn't look back, didn't engage. She sat down at a table across the room, placing her coffee in front of her. Everything should have gone back to normal. It always did. But this time, it didn't. She picked up her cup, took the sip, and stared into nothing. Her mind wasn't on emails, not on meetings, not on deals. It was on him. And those words, "You're about to lose something," or "someone important." Tightened her grip slightly around the cup. Coincidence? That's all it was. People said things like that all the time. Vague, open-ended, to apply to anyone. She knew how this worked. She had built an entire career on understanding patterns, predictions, outcomes. This was nothing. And yet, why did it feel like something? Her eyes moved, almost involuntarily, back toward the window. He was still there, same position, same calm expression, talking softly to his daughter. Now, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just stepped into her world and disturbed it. Elena looked away again. No, she wasn't doing this. She had bigger problems. Real problems. Not tarot cards. Not strangers. Real life didn't work like that. She finished her coffee quickly, stood up and walked out of the cafe without another glance. But even as the door closed behind her and the cold evening air hit her face, something followed her. Not physically, but mentally. That feeling, that small, uncomfortable shift inside her, the kind she hadn't felt in years. Uncertainty, back in her car. Elena sat still for a moment before starting the engine. Her phone buzzed, emails, calls, notifications. Her world was waiting for her. AGAINLOUD. Demanding, unforgiving. She picked up her phone, paused, then placed it back down, and, for a brief second, she thought about going back. Just to ask one question, just to understand. But she did instead. She drove away, convincing herself it didn't matter, that it was nothing, that it meant nothing. But deep down, she knew one thing. That moment was not over, and whatever he had seen, whatever he had meant, it was going to come back soon. If you felt that moment, if you think something deeper is about to unfold, then make sure to like this video. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. What if you tried to ignore someone, but somehow they kept pulling you back? Elena Cross didn't go back the next day. Not because she wasn't curious, but because she was. And curiosity, in her world, was dangerous. She had built her entire life on control, on logic, on facts. There was no space for uncertainty, no room for things that couldn't be explained. And that man, he was exactly that, unexplainable. So she avoided the cafe. She stayed late at the office instead, took extra meetings, reviewed contracts twice, filled every second of her day with noise. Just the way she liked it. But something wasn't right. Her focus kept slipping in the middle of a board meeting. Her mind drifted in the middle of a call. She lost track of what someone was saying. And every time she paused, she saw the same thing. A quiet cafe, a calm man, and a single sentence. You're about to lose something, or someone important. By the end of the day, she was irritated. Not at him, at herself. This is ridiculous. She muttered under her breath as she shut her laptop. She grabbed her coat, walked out of her office, and stepped into the cold evening air. Her driver opened the car door. "Home, ma'am." Elena paused for a moment. She almost said yes, but instead no. She said, "Take a left." The car moved, and 10 minutes later, she was standing outside the same coffee shop, the same quiet place she had told herself she wouldn't return to. She stared at the door for a second, then pushed it open. The soft bell rang again, and just like that, everything felt familiar. Same warm lights, same quiet hum, same calm atmosphere, and same table, same position. As if nothing had changed, as if he had been expecting her. "You came back." His voice was gentle, certain. Elena walked toward him slowly. This time, she didn't hesitate. She pulled the chair across from him and sat down. "I don't like unfinished conversations," she said. He smiled slightly. "It wasn't unfinished," he replied. "You just needed time." Elena leaned forward slightly. "You said something yesterday," she said. "I want to understand it." He looked at her calmly. "It wasn't magic." "Then what was it?" she asked, her tone sharper now. "Observation." Elena frowned. "Observation doesn't predict the future." "No," he said quietly, "but it understands patterns." For a moment, she didn't respond, because what he said made sense, and she didn't like that. "Who are you?" she asked. "Daniel," he said simply. "Daniel Reed." As if that explained everything. It didn't. But strangely, it was enough. For now Lily looked up from her drawing and smiled. "You came back," she said happily. Elena gave a small nod. "I guess I did." Something about the child's warmth made it harder to stay. Guarded. And that was new. Days passed, and without realizing it, it became a routine. Elena would finish work, and, instead of going home, she would go there. The cafe, the same table, the same man, the same quiet presence. At first, it was just curiosity. Questions, observations, small conversations, but slowly, it became something else. Comfort, for the first time in years. Elena found herself sitting somewhere, without checking her phone, every 5 seconds, without rushing, without thinking about the next move. Daniel didn't ask about her company, didn't ask about money, didn't care about her title to him. She wasn't Elena Cross, CEO. She was just Elena. And that was something she didn't realize she needed, until now. One evening, as they sat quietly, Elena finally asked, "Why tarot?" Daniel looked down at the cards, then back at her. "It gives people something to believe in," he said. She asked, "Do you believe in it?" He paused. "Not in the way people think." Elena tilted her head slightly. "Then why use it?" "Because sometimes," he said softly, "people listen more when they think it's magic." That answer stayed with her. Long after she left, long after the conversations ended, it wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Calm, certain, real, and somehow she trusted it, which made no sense at all, because Elena Cross didn't trust easily. Not people, not emotions, and definitely not strangers with tarot cards. But Daniel was becoming an exception, and that was dangerous, because exceptions turn into attachments, and attachments turn into weakness. Then, one morning, everything changed. Elena walked into her office, like any other day, confident, focused, in control. But the moment she stepped inside, she knew something was wrong. Her assistant rushed toward her. "Ma'am, there's a problem." Elena's expression sharpened instantly. "What happened?" "The deal with Harrison Group." She hesitated. "They pulled out." Elena froze. "That's not possible," she said immediately. "We finalized everything." "They backed out overnight," her assistant replied. "No warning, no explanation, none." Elena's jaw tightened. "Call them," she ordered. "I already did. They're not responding." The room suddenly felt smaller, heavier. Months of work, gone. Just like that, Elena walked into her office slowly, closing the door behind her. She sat down, staring at the screen. Numbers, reports, contracts, all of it. Useless now. Her heart began to race. Not because of the loss, but because of something else. Something far more unsettling. A memory, a voice. "You're about to lose something, for someone important." Her breath caught. Her hands tightened. "No," she whispered. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. It was just a coincidence. It had to be. But deep down, she knew. This wasn't random. This wasn't luck. This wasn't chance. Something about him was real, and for the first time in her life, Elena Cross didn't feel in control. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and worst of all, she wanted answers. Not from her team, not from her board, from him, because somehow he had seen this coming. And now the question wasn't how. The question was, what else did he see? Asterisk. If you think this is just coincidence, think again, because in the next chapter, Elena is about to discover the truth behind Daniel. And trust me, it's not what you expect. So make sure to like this video, comment your country below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. What if the man you thought was reading your future was actually reading you? Elena Cross didn't sleep that night. Not properly. Her mind refused to slow down. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the same moment. That cafe, that man, that voice. You're about to lose something, or someone important. And now, it had happened. Not exactly how she imagined, but enough to shake her. Certainty, enough to make her question everything she thought she knew. By morning, Elena had already made a decision. She wasn't going to sit there, wondering. She was going to find out the truth, because that's what she did. She didn't believe in mysteries. She solved them by 9 a.m. Elena was already in her office, but this time she wasn't reviewing contracts. She wasn't taking calls. She was digging. Get me everything on Daniel Reed. She told her assistant. Her assistant hesitated slightly. From the cafe. Yes, Elena said sharply. Everything within hours. The file was on her desk. Thin. Elena frowned. That's it, she asked. There's not much on him, her assistant replied. It's like he disappeared for a few years. That was the first red flag. People don't just disappear. Not completely. Not without a reason. Elena opened the file and started reading. At first, it was normal, basic records, old address, marriage certificate. Then she stopped. Her eyes narrowed slightly. There it was, buried between outdated information. Daniel Reed, behavioral analyst. Elena leaned back slowly. A behavioral analyst, she whispered. That changed everything. This wasn't tarot. This wasn't intuition. This was skill, training, precision. Someone who studied human behavior. Someone who could read patterns, predict reactions, understand people before they understood themselves. Elena's grip tightened on the file. So that's your game, she murmured. But something didn't sit right. If he was that skilled, why was he sitting in a quiet cafe, reading tarot cards? Why hide it? Why pretend? Unless there was more. That evening, Elena didn't hesitate. She went straight to the cafe. No second thoughts. No internal debate. She pushed the door open. The bell rang softly, and there he was. Same seat, same calm presence. As if nothing had changed. As if he hadn't just turned her world upside down. You're late today, Daniel said calmly. Elena walked straight to his table. No smile, no small talk. She placed the file in front of him. You want to explain this? She said. Daniel looked down at it, then back at her. No panic, no surprise, just silence. You're not just some tarot reader, Elena continued. You're a trained behavioral analyst. Still, no reaction. I never said I wasn't. Daniel replied quietly. Elena's jaw tightened. That's not an answer. It's the truth. She leaned forward slightly. Then why pretend? She demanded. Why the cards? Why the act? Daniel picked up one of the tarot cards, turning it slowly between his fingers. Because people trust mystery more than truth, he said. Elena frowned. That doesn't make sense. It does, he replied calmly. If I told someone exactly who I was, they'd put their guard up. He looked at her. But if they think it's just cards, they listen, Elena finished quietly. Daniel nodded, and just like that, something clicked. Elena leaned back slightly, her mind racing. This wasn't manipulation. Not entirely. It was something more complicated, more human. Were you doing that with me? She asked. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He held her gaze. I was understanding you. The words hit differently. Not defensive, not aggressive, just honest. And that made it harder to argue. Elena looked away for a second, because for the first time, she felt exposed. Not in a weak way, but in a real way, like someone had seen past everything she had built. Her control, her confidence, her walls, and understood what was underneath. That was new and uncomfortable. My dad helps people. The small voice broke the tension. Elena looked down. Lily was watching them quietly, her expression soft, certain. He doesn't trick them, she added gently. Expression softened slightly. Didn't say he did, she replied. But inside, she wasn't sure anymore. Because the truth was, she didn't feel manipulated. She felt seen. And that was far more dangerous. Why stop? Elena asked suddenly. Daniel looked at her. Stop what? She gestured around. Your work, your career. Why leave it? Daniel's expression changed. Slightly. Not much, but enough. Some jobs don't let you stay human, he said quietly. Elena didn't respond because she understood that more than she wanted to admit. And your daughter? She asked softly. She's the reason I left, Daniel replied. Lily smiled faintly. And in that moment, everything made sense. This wasn't a man hiding. This was a man choosing. Choosing peace, choosing simplicity, choosing simplicity, choosing. For Elena looked at him differently. Now, not as a mystery, not as a question, but as someone real. Someone who had walked away from something. Big dot. Something powerful, for something that mattered more. And for some reason, that stayed with her. But the questions didn't end. Because one thing still remained. Then how did you know? Elena asked quietly. Daniel tilted his head slightly. Know what? The deal, she said. The loss. Daniel didn't look surprised. I didn't know, he replied. Elena frowned. You said I would lose something. I said you might, he corrected gently. That's not the same thing. It is when the signs are clear. Elena's eyes narrowed. What signs? Daniel leaned back slightly. You were distracted that day, he said. Your posture, your tone, your focus, it wasn't stable. Elena listened, despite herself. You were holding too many things at once, he continued, which usually means something is about to slip. Silence. Because again, it made sense. And the someone important, she asked. Daniel paused. That time, he didn't answer immediately. Sometimes, he said slowly, people don't realize what matters until it's at risk. Elena felt something shift inside her again. Something subtle, but real, and just like that. The mystery was gone. But somehow, he wasn't. If anything, he was more real now than before. And that made things more complicated, because now she understood him, and understanding someone changes everything. As Elena stood up to leave, she paused for a moment, looking at him, not as a stranger anymore, not as a puzzle, but as something else, something she wasn't ready to define. Yet, this isn't over, she said quietly. Daniel smiled slightly. I know. Now things are getting real, because in the next chapter, everything Elena built is about to fall apart, and Daniel is about to disappear. So make sure to like this video, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel, because the emotional storm is just beginning. What hurts more? Losing someone you love, or realizing it too late? Everything started falling apart. Not slowly, not gently, but all at once. Elena Cross had faced pressure before. Billion-dollar risks, ruthless competitors, boardroom betrayals. But this felt different. This felt personal. Her company was under attack, not from the outside, from within. Confidential files were leaking, private strategies exposed, deals collapsing, one after another, lawsuits threatening everything she had built. And the worst part, she didn't know who to trust anymore. Every face in the boardroom felt like a question mark. Every conversation felt like a trap. And for the first time in years, Elena Cross wasn't in control. But that wasn't the only thing that changed. Because in the middle of all this chaos, Daniel disappeared. No message, no explanation, no goodbye. One day, he was there, and the next gone at first. Elena didn't think much of it. People had lives. He had a daughter. Maybe he was busy. Maybe something came up. But days passed. Then more days. And still, nothing. Elena found herself doing something she never thought she would. She kept going back to the cafe. Same time, same place, same table, but his chair remained empty every single time. The first day, she told herself it didn't matter. The second day, she felt slightly annoyed. By the third day, she stopped making excuses, because the truth was, it did matter more than it should. She sat there one evening, staring at the empty chair across from her. The same chair where he used to sit. The same place where everything had felt. Now it felt different. Too quiet, too empty. Elena wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, staring down at it. This is ridiculous, she whispered. She had lost deals worth millions without blinking. She had fired people without hesitation. She had walked away from relationships that didn't serve her. So why? Why did this feel worse? Because it wasn't about business, it wasn't about control, it wasn't about power. It was about him. And that realization hit harder than anything else. The bell above the cafe door rang softly. Elena didn't look up. She didn't expect him anymore. But then a small voice spoke. "He didn't leave you." Elena froze. Slowly, she looked up. Lily standing near the entrance. Alone, Elena stood up immediately. "Lily," she said, surprised. "Where's your dad?" The little girl walked closer, her expression calm but thoughtful. "He had to go," she said. Elena frowned slightly. "Go where?" Lily shook her head gently. "He didn't tell me everything," she admitted. That didn't sit right. Elena knelt down to her level. "Then why did he leave?" she asked softly. Lily looked at her straight into her eyes. "Because he saw danger." Elena's heart skipped. "What do you mean? When things get bad," Lily said quietly, "my dad protects people." Elena swallowed slightly. "By leaving?" she asked. Lily nodded. "He thinks it keeps them safe." For a moment, Elena couldn't speak, because suddenly everything made sense. The distance, the silence, the disappearance. It wasn't random. It was a choice, and not just any choice. A protective one. "He cares about you," Lily added softly. Those words hit deeper than anything else. Elena looked away for a second, trying to process it, trying to understand why that mattered so much, why it felt like something inside her was breaking and healing at the same time that night. Elena sat alone in her office. The city lights stretched endlessly outside the glass. Windows, cars moving, people living. Everything normal except her. She stood near the window, arms crossed, staring out at the skyline. But she wasn't seeing the city. She was seeing him. His calm expression, his steady voice, the way he looked at her, like he understood something no one else did. "I was understanding you." The words echoed in her mind, over and over again. And for the first time, Elena didn't push the feeling away. She let it stay because the truth was, she missed him. Not the tarot cards, not the mystery, not even the conversations. She missed him, his presence, his calm, the way everything felt easier when he was around. And that realization scared her more than losing money, more than losing power, more than losing control, because this wasn't something she could fix. This wasn't something she could manage. This was something she had no control over. Her feelings. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, taking a slow breath, and then she said it out loud, even though no one was there to hear it. "I missed him." The words felt strange, unfamiliar, but real, because it meant one thing, something she had avoided for years, something she had buried under ambition, success, and controlled. She had fallen for him, not slowly, not carefully, but completely, without realizing it, without planning it, without control. And now, he was gone. Elena opened her eyes again, looking out at the city, but this time, her expression had changed. No longer confused, no longer uncertain, but something else, something stronger, determination. Because if there was one thing Elena Cross didn't do, it was walk away from something that mattered. And now, he mattered. If you felt that moment, if you understand what it means to realize love, just a little too late, then don't forget to like this video, comment your country below, and subscribe to the channel. Because, in the final chapter, he's coming back, and when he does, everything will change. What if the person who walked away to protect you comes back when you need them the most? Everything was on the edge. Elena Cross stood in the center of her office, staring at the reports spread across her desk. Numbers dropping, deals collapsing, trust gone. The betrayal inside her company had spread, deeper than she expected. This wasn't just business anymore. It was war. And for the first time in years, Elena felt alone in it. Days had passed since she last saw Daniel, but his absence hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown heavier, because now she understood why he left. And somehow, that made it harder. Her assistant rushed into the room. "Ma'am, the board is asking for an emergency meeting." Elena didn't move. "Delay it," she said calmly. "They're saying it's urgent." I said, "Delay it." Her tone was firm, controlled, but inside, everything felt unstable. She turned toward the window again. The city stretched, endlessly below power, control, everything she had built. And yet, at that moment, it felt meaningless, because the one thing she wanted wasn't there. Then the door opened, slowly, without urgency, without fear, and a familiar voice broke the silence. "I know who betrayed you." Elena froze. Her heart skipped. She turned, and there he was. Daniel, standing at the door like he had never left. Same calm expression, same steady presence, as if chaos had no power over him at all. For a moment, Elena couldn't speak, not because she didn't have words, but because none of them felt enough. "You came back," she said quietly. Daniel stepped inside. "I told you," he replied. "I don't leave when it matters." Elena's eyes searched his face, looking for answers, for explanations, for something. "Why now?" she asked. "Because now," he said calmly, "you need me." Those words should have sounded arrogant, but they didn't. They felt true. Elena took a step closer. "You disappeared," she said. "No message, no explanation." Daniel didn't look away. "I saw what was coming," he replied, "and I knew, if I stayed, I'd be part of it." Elena frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said quietly, "someone inside your company is watching you closely, and anyone near you becomes a target." Silence, because deep down, she already knew that. "And now?" she asked. Daniel stepped closer. "Now, it's too late to stay away." The room felt different. Not tense, not uncertain, but focused. Like everything was finally aligning. "How do you know who it is?" Elena asked Daniel. Glanced at the reports on her desk. "I don't need tarot cards to see patterns," he said. "People reveal themselves." He walked over, picking up one of the documents. "Small inconsistencies," he continued. "Timing of leaks, access points, behavior changes." Elena watched him closely, because this was the real him. Not the quiet man with tarot cards, but the one who understood everything beneath the surface. Within minutes, Daniel pointed it out. The pattern, the connection, the truth. And just like that, the betrayal had a face. Elena acted immediately. Meetings were called, decisions were made. And by the end of the day, the threat was contained. The damage was controlled. But for once, that wasn't the part that mattered most. Because, as the office slowly emptied and the chaos settled, Elena found herself standing in front of him again. Not as a CEO, not as a leader, but as someone who finally understood her own heart. "You left," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "I did. You hurt me," she added. That made him pause, not defensive, not distant, just honest. "I know," he said. Elena took another step, closer, "And you still came back." Daniel looked at her. "For you," he said. Simply, no complicated explanation. No long speech, just truth. And somehow, that was enough. "And now?" Elena asked, her voice softer, less guarded, less controlled. Daniel didn't hesitate this time. "Now, I'm staying." The words settled between them, not heavy, not overwhelming, just right. Before Elena could respond, the door opened again, and Lily ran inside. Bright smile, pure energy, like nothing bad had ever touched her world. "You're both here," she said happily. She ran straight toward them, and without hesitation, she grabbed Elena's hand, then Daniel's, pulling them closer together. "You're both staying now, right?" she asked innocently. Elena looked at Daniel for a moment. Everything slowed down. All the noise, all the pressure, all the control she had held onto for years gone. There was no calculation, no strategy, no fear, just a choice. She nodded. Double quotes, yes, she said softly. Daniel smiled, not wide, not dramatic, but real. And in that moment, everything felt different. Not because the problems were gone, not because life was suddenly perfect, but because she wasn't alone anymore. Daniel looked at her, his voice calm, certain, the same way it had been from the very beginning. Some people don't need magic to see the future. Elena squeezed his hand gently. A small gesture, but meaningful. They just understand hearts. And for the first time in years, Elena Cross didn't feel uncertain about what was coming next. She felt ready, because the future wasn't something she had to control anymore. It was something she could finally share. If this story touched your heart, if you believe some connections are deeper than logic, then don't forget to like this video, comment where you're watching from, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Because sometimes, the right person doesn't change your future. They help you finally see it.